All right, welcome back to the Jake for the State podcast. I'm Senator Jake Merrick here with Danielle Daniels.
Hello, Oklahoma.
How are you doing today?
I am well. I hope everybody else is doing well today. This is the day that the Lord has made.
Yes, it is.
Let's honor him.
All right, well, we started our discussion about SEL, and last episode, then we really dug deep into, not intentionally, but we really started focusing on what is driving the trauma. And of course, that's a topic unto itself that we could focus, on multiple episodes. This is something that is very widespread across the state and across the country. Something that more and more people are talking about is this concept of trauma. It's more than a concept, it's a reality.
Yes.
It's something that we all, at some level, are experiencing and going through. I think more and more people are talking about it in connection with COVID, but trauma has been here. Well, it's always around us. I don't care if you're talking about ancient days. They probably had more trauma than we even had, right? I mean, when they're talking about actual survival.
Right. We live in a very hostile earth. Like it's hostile.
It's hostile.
Imagine if insects were our size.
That's a whole nother conversation about the what ifs. But along that point, I can always I'll just go with it. Sometimes think about children, how they feel.
Yeah.
Like in their smallness, seeing the bigness of the world around them.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe they feel like insects. Maybe they're seeing these huge people walking around. They feel helpless and like they could be squashed at any moment. I mean, imagine that. That's how a lot of children feel, especially if they don't feel the security of a loving, healthy family unit
Yes.
that is there to surround them. So, man, I'm telling you, we adopted out of DHS, right? We
Yeah.
adopted a little girl who came from a place of instability, came from a place of abuse, where she was constantly, her life was threatened on a daily basis.
Yes.
She may not have cognitively recognized this, but her instincts did.
Yes.
And her body did, and is saying, we must fight to survive.
Oh.
And so, one thing we've learned through this process of adoption and taking in a little girl who went through trauma and abuse and neglect is, a baby in those first 3 years of life, the most formative years, because the most fundamental thing happens.
Yes.
A baby cries and the mama runs to it.
Yeah. Well, supposed to be.
Supposed to.
Yeah.
Or the father.
Yes.
They run, they grab it up, and their concern is, why are you crying? How can I help you?
Yeah.
And so immediately you embrace them, or you touch them, or you look them in the eyes, and you're asking the question, what's the matter? How can I help? Oh, it's a dirty diaper. Okay, let's get that dirty thing off and clean you up and put a new one on. Oh, you're hungry. Okay, let's feed you. Oh, you just need touch.
Yeah.
You need to be caressed and held. And so there's that immediate instinctual response on the mom and the dad to come in and provide them, surround them with love. And because of that, this baby learns, I can cry for help and I'll get it.
Yeah.
There's that cry for help and the natural response of the parent to come and provide what's needed. When that natural response is not there and the baby cries and no help comes, the baby learns, oh, I've got to do this on my own. I've got to learn to survive. Nobody's coming to help me. So immediately fear sets in their little soul, and their brain begins to shift and change, where now they instinctually go to fight, flight, or freeze, because that's how this baby's designed to survive. That's how we're all designed to survive. If we're if a lion jumps out of the bush, immediately our lives are in danger, and we go into flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
We've got to get out of there. And so imagine going through that on an ongoing basis. You are constantly, everything is a threat. And as a baby, you talked about little insects. What if we were that small and I'm going in that direction? Sometimes this is the way our children feel. They are that small. Everything is a threat to them. And if no one is there to help them, protect them, they live in constant fear, and everything is a threat. And so what happens is you leave the prefrontal cortex of your brain and you go back to this What is it?
I think it's called the amygdala.
Yeah, I think so. We always call it the front and back side
Yeah.
of the brain, right?
Yeah.
So you go to the back
small
side.
part, yeah.
Yeah, that is your instinct side.
Mhm.
That is the reaction side. And when you live out of there, your cortisol levels are up, your adrenaline is up, all of the chemistry of your body is out of whack because it's not there to just maintain regular good health.
Right.
It's there to ensure you don't get eaten by the lion.
Right.
So the only thing of concern of your body physiologically is I got to get out of here. So a few things happen. All of your blood rushes from your brain and from your vital organs into the extremities. And it does that because you need to run real fast. You need to be able to use your limbs to move out of danger.
Mm-hmm.
So you stop thinking rationally and you just start responding instinctually.
Yes.
And then the blood goes to your extremities. And also an important thing we can talk about is your body is no longer concerned. If you have the flu,
right,
and a lion jumps out,
right, your
your body is not concerned about the flu.
At that point, no.
At that point, so what happens is your immune system shuts down. I don't think that's the right way to say it.
Pushed to the back burner.
Right, exactly. The priority becomes immediate survival,
Right.
not fighting this virus.
Right.
So all of your body's energy goes to getting out of harm's way. So what happens is you become immune compromised.
Yeah.
If you live in this heightened state of fear,
Oh man.
all of a sudden you become vulnerable to, guess what? Viruses. So if you are constantly hearing, and we can get off topic so fast because all these things. If you live in this constant state of fear, then you're more susceptible to viruses and other things around you because your body is just in this fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Right.
Another topic altogether, but related to this issue of trauma that our children are going through, our families are going through. And so now we've got to go deeper into this SEL, so I'm going to transition here.
Right.
Now you have these children who are going through, they live in an unstable environment at home, or maybe they're seeing this panic across the nation.
Yes.
They're seeing all of this stuff in the news and whatever, and they're not sure if they're going to have a tomorrow, if they're going to have a safe place, if they're going to have food on the shelves, because I watch the news and all the grocery shelves are empty.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing what children pick up,
Yes.
I mean, I'm amazed at my little 7-year-old. We're talking and we're constantly telling her, this is an adult conversation.
Right.
We're
not babies. I remember my mom, she was stressed out about the bills one time, and I was just being nosy, and I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, get out of here. And I was like, I want to know. So when she told me, I literally panicked.
Right.
And I was like,
you're not supposed
4
to
or
handle
5.
that.
Like, it wasn't, that was not for me.
Right,
So.
exactly. We constantly tell our kids, listen, that's our responsibility. This is not something for you to worry about. We got that.
Yeah.
And we do that for their own good.
Yes.
So they're not living in, anxiety all the time.
Yes.
But think about that. A little kid who doesn't have that from a parent.
Right.
And they are privy to all this, or maybe they're seeing things they shouldn't see, hearing things they shouldn't hear, and they're trying to process this.
And it's not even developed fully up here.
Yeah.
For them to even process it accurately or in depth.
Okay, so we really dove into that last episode. So we have all that, and then they go to school.
Yeah.
And they've got to learn math.
Yeah.
Like, good luck. And so teachers are experiencing this, and I understand this, and my heart goes out to teachers.
Yes.
And so they're asking, what can we do about this? Now, from our perspective, my personal perspective as well, again, we adopted out of DHS, had a little girl who had 3 years of neglect and abuse. And so she comes into our custody. We have no concept of trauma. We're just learning about this.
Right.
We're parenting the way that we were parented, where, you throw a fit, you got time out, or you're getting a spanking.
Right.
Not knowing that that's just accelerating this trauma and making it worse. So we've had to learn a lot. But we send our little girl to public school, and she walks in the classroom, and all the kids just naturally turn to see who came in the door.
Right.
Well, that triggers her.
Oh,
she goes off. Why are you looking at me? And she throws a chair.
Oh.
So, of course, the teacher sends her to the principal.
Yeah.
Not realizing this is a trigger of deep-rooted trauma.
Right.
She's in fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Right.
In full-out panic. So my wife is going to school every single day, if
Right.
not multiple times a day,
Right.
just to help get her calmed down so she can go back to the classroom and learn.
Right.
This was not working out for us.
Right.
And the response of the school was, we don't have the resources to help her.
Or the skills.
Exactly. I mean, they were sending her to the principal or to the counselor.
Right. Well, okay, there you go.
So they did have a counselor, but they did not know how to help her.
Okay, right. That it was a school counselor, not like a license.
Not a very trauma informed,
yes.
which because of our heightened awareness, our growing awareness as a culture, as a society about trauma, then more and more counselors are being trauma informed and trauma educated.
Yes.
And we're having more resources in the school to help children.
Yes.
What we ended up having to do is pull her out, and now we're currently homeschooling. We tried a variety of things, Epic.
Okay.
We went to private school. For right now, what's best for us is homeschooling because it's a safe, controlled environment.
Right.
We know exactly what she needs. We can help her get in a place mentally and emotionally where she can learn.
Right. She's not overstimulated. She feels safe.
Exactly. Because of that, I understand where teachers are coming from.
Yes.
I understand. Even at home, homeschooling our one daughter with trauma. We have two daughters, but our other daughter has known nothing but absolute stability and love.
Right.
She's good.
Yeah.
I mean, we turn her loose. She gets her stuff done. Our other daughter struggles because if she doesn't write her letter correctly, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Rips up the paper. I mean, so we're dealing with this constantly. So we understand. We understand what a teacher might be going through. Yes. And there is a problem in our school system. How do we handle it? How do we help teachers help our kids?
Yes.
That's the question, right?
Yes, that is.
And the proposition is SEL, social emotional learning. A lot of people, especially conservatives, are concerned about this. Before we talk about the concerns, let's just dive into what this is. What is social emotional learning? What is it proposing? So you've done a little bit of research.
Yes.
Tell us what you found.
So I found an article from National University. They're an accredited university. They're private, so it's a reliable source. And the 5 pillars to SEL are self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision making, social awareness, and relationship skills. And so a couple of these, gave me pause because I do understand the child needs to be in an environment and in a state to where they're able to learn and absorb what they're learning. But some of these things, I don't know if it matters. So one of them, the social awareness, it says it's the ability to put yourself in the shoes of another person who may be from a different background or culture from the one you grew up with, to act with empathy and in an ethical manner within your home, school, and community. I'm not sure where that will help the child calm down to be able to learn reading, writing, science. I don't.
Right. This is the social awareness.
Yes, that's the social awareness component.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or also called social consciousness.
Yes.
And it's this attempt to help people understand with empathy. Empathy is kind of a key word, right?
Right.
In SEL, empathy.
Yes.
Is identifying with others in the same community, same culture, and being able to have empathy and understand where someone else is coming from.
Right.
Okay, that's good. I get that. Everything can sound good on the surface.
But the argument is these children aren't in a calm state to learn.
Yeah.
So what does empathy have to do with them calming down to learn science? I'm just trying to connect the dots, and it's not.
Yeah, exactly. So we are looking at what is the role of public education,
right?
And is it to help people be better citizens, or is it to teach kids?
Right.
I mean, both to a certain degree.
Right.
To a certain degree. There's some things that should, we say this in ministry a lot, that some things are taught, some things are caught.
Right. Oh.
Some things are taught, some things are caught. There's some things you can't get by teaching it. You have to model it.
Correct.
and and so I was telling you earlier about a football coach,
Yes, yes.
that I had back in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So you think back over your life, and you think about like there's certain teachers and coaches and maybe pastors or parents or influencers who you look back and it's like you remember them, they stand out,
Yes.
and you ask why did they stand out? Because they made some kind of impact on your life.
Yes.
And so this one coach, when I think about people in the public school who impacted me, he stands out. And I think about why? Why did he stand out? Because I only played football for a brief amount of time, and he wasn't even the head coach.
Oh, wow.
But he did teach like social studies, or he taught a history class, or he's one of my teachers. I forget what he taught. But see, again, I didn't even remember the specifics, but I remember him.
Yes.
And what was it about him? It was but he was a big, strong man, for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody respected him because he was just a big man.
Yeah.
But he had a gentleness about him.
See.
And so he was big and strong, but he was approachable. Yeah. He was always smiling. Yeah. He would talk to you. Yeah. He would be vicious out on the field. I remember he coached girls basketball, and he would just coach hard. Yeah. But he's always there to love. Yeah. And so you saw this like dynamic, and there was something inside of you that said, I like that. Yeah. In fact, I want to be like that. There was a model that he gave us. Right. And so there's some things that are modeled that are intuitively caught by kids. Right. That is the way it should be. I mean, in a healthy home, a mom and father model certain things for their kids. Right. You can teach them, tell them, and teach them all day long. Right. But for one thing, if you're not living it, it doesn't matter. Correct. Because they're going to see the way you live over what you're saying. Right. You tell them, don't drink, but you're drinking. It's like, it's conflict. What they're seeing overrides what they're hearing. Right. I'm actually seeing you do this, so there's a conflict. Yes. And chances are they're going to follow the model over the lesson that you try to teach them. Right. It's nurture. So we especially like you're saying, the first 5 years, the first 3 are the most important, but the first 5 years, we do absorb and we learn not just by what we're being taught, but what we're seeing. And we learn how we're fascinating beings. Even the way that we speak and the rhythm and the tones that we have, we get that from our parents. We mimic them even with our own voice. Exactly. And let me just stop here to say, I'm not a psychologist. Yeah. I'm not a licensed counselor. Right. You're in school for it. You're around this all the time studying it. I love it. You're not licensed either, though. Not yet. We're not standing here as professionals in this field. But here's what we are saying is I have plenty of experience as a parent and have gone through a lot of training in trauma. So I just want to share my perspective. And also, I always try to encourage parents to be the expert on your child. Yes. That's your responsibility. Yes. And you may feel unqualified and unprepared, but that is your responsibility and duty. Now, you may partner with other professionals, psychologists, doctors, whatever, but ultimately you're responsible for your child. It's your job to be the expert on your child, what they need. And, the doctor may say, this is what they need, but ultimately you make the decision. Yes. And so that information needs to come to you and then through you to your child, and you're the gatekeeper. Yeah. And so, again, there's this constant theme of extreme ownership. Yes. That's something that's popular in our culture today, this idea of extreme ownership. I believe it. I preach it. You have to take ownership of yourself and of your family, of your community, your state, but it starts with yourself. Yeah. And for your children, you are the gatekeeper. You are the professional. So it's your job to be informed and educated. And I try to do that myself with my own children. Yes. And now as a legislator, I want to do that as best I can for our children in public schools. Yes. And when I don't know, I want to seek out professionals to get their perspective. Yes. But at the same time, I'm going to respect you as a professional and the research you've done. But I'm very interested in your worldview. Yes. Because that information you're learning is filtered through your worldview and the fundamental beliefs you carry that serve as your filter for all information. Yes, that's very true. So we have to ask this in the public schools and even with counselors. I'm not going to just accept what you say because you have some letters following your name. Yeah. I want to know, what is it you believe and how is that influencing this information? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, and it takes a village. These teachers are trained and skilled to teach our children reading, writing, history, right? And of course, everyone can govern their classroom how it needs in the confines of education,
Yeah.
right? How it needs to be so the children can learn. But it does take a village. These teachers can't raise your children by themselves, and you might need a teacher to help your child get math so that you can work and support your family, right? And therapists are also needed. And again, it takes a village. Everybody needs each other. So
Yeah.
teaching these teachers, making them deal with the trauma, I just feel like they're probably overwhelmed.
Right, right. And even that concept of the village, there's a lot of truth to that. But that can also have this socialist Marxist roots.
Oh,
This is obviously what Hillary Clinton wrote her book on and really popularized that in our culture. Is this idea of the village? It takes a village. There is truth to that. There can always be truth mixed in with other things.
Yes.
And so my concern is who's in that village?
Yes.
Okay. So ultimately, I am responsible for me and my family.
Yes.
And yeah, I will work with my community, my village, but we don't defer responsibility.
Yes.
We don't share responsibility because ultimately that's my responsibility. And so I send my kids to school, but it's my responsibility to know what they're being taught.
Yes.
And to correct it if it's wrong.
Yes.
And to know that there is a right and a wrong, and it's not just right because it comes from a professional.
Right. And the point I was trying to make here is that teachers aren't supposed to rear our children. They're supposed to educate them so that they can learn how they can have the basic skills to go out here into this world and support themselves.
They play a role. They play a role.
They do. Yeah, it was a silo.
If you're not able to homeschool, if you're not able to send them to a private school, or you just want them to be in the public school setting, that's cool. That's good. But I would encourage all of you, don't just send them away and trust, because there may be good people up there, but what do they believe? Because their beliefs will shape what they are teaching and how they are teaching it. So we were talking about social awareness, social consciousness.
Right.
So obviously there's a narrative out there that's pushing equity. That's pushing, these are some key words that's in our culture at large: equity and fairness,
and empathy.
I believe in those things, but again, we have to define terminology, define words, and say, what do you mean by equity? Does it mean that I believe in equal opportunity?
Yes.
But inevitably, everyone will be born into a certain set of circumstances.
Yes.
Some people will be born into the homes of millionaires. Some people will be born into the homes of drug addicts, that live in the trailer park. You know what? We need equal opportunity for every child. But I don't believe in equity that says we must take the money from the millionaire and give it to the kid in the trailer park so that they can be elevated and start at the same place. Don't believe in that, because I need to give that child an equal opportunity to succeed, but he or she is going to have to take the circumstances he was dealt and figure it out. This is the world we live in. This is the world we live in. This is what creates resilience and determination. How many stories out there are there of kids, of people who have risen from the ashes? Even Frederick Douglass. Right. I love his story. He was a slave. Yeah. He was born into slavery. His mom separated from his mom and father. His mom died, and he was beaten and abused, but he learned how to read, and then he developed that skill. Then he became a great orator and a leader in this movement for the abolition of slavery, even becoming a candidate for president. I mean, I love his story, truly a rising from the ashes story. Right. So that is possible.
Yes.
We need to instill that hope in people, that your circumstances don't determine your future.
Right.
You can change that. That's the beauty of America, is you can change it. But it's not, I will change it for you.
Right.
As soon as you do that, you cripple people.
Yeah, the victim mindset.
Right. I want opportunity. I talked to a man, he was a legal immigrant from Mexico, and he came here 35 years ago. and began to work.
Mm.
Obviously, he was great in construction. And he said, I said, Carlos, what do you need? I said, you come across to America, what do you need? And what are you looking for? When you come over here, what are you looking for? What are you chasing after? Why did you come here? And he said, you know what all of us need? We just need an opportunity.
Wow.
That's it. That was so powerful. It stayed with me. What he was looking for was an opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
He knew he could. Now, I believe in doing it legally in the right way.
Yes.
Not just running across the border, because we have laws of the land and you need to adhere to and comply with the laws of the land. Come over the right way, and there is opportunity for you to do that.
Yes.
And if you will do that, it will remove from you and your children a lot of hardships that come with coming over illegally.
Right.
If you do it the right way, there's boundless opportunities. I mean, he was driving a nicer truck than I was, and he managed multiple crews.
Wow.
He was doing very well for himself, and he was sending money back to his family in Mexico to help them.
I love that.
But he told me this story too. He said his brother was in Mexico, and he got used to this money being sent over from him in America. And he was always calling, asking for more money. And I'm not making a judgment on anything. I'm just telling Carlos' story.
Right.
And so Carlos finally came to him, and he was asking for more money. And he said, I gave him a hammer. And he said, you don't need more money. You need an opportunity. And he gave him a hammer, and he said, this is your opportunity. Powerful.
Yes.
That's how Carlos rose up and gained the influence and the status he did and the money he did that he was able to send back to his brother. As he started with the hammer, he started with his own determination to go work and build, and now he produced something that was able to bless a lot of people.
Right.
And so he was teaching his brother the same lesson.
Yes.
And he gave him a hammer, he gave him an opportunity. And that is what we need to remind people of in this nation, in this state, is there is an opportunity for all.
Yes.
But sometimes most of the time it requires sacrifice, dedication, hard work,
Yes.
Compliance with laws, different things like that. And if you do that, you can succeed. And chances are you will succeed.
Yes.
You told me the other day, you were working your tail off. And why did you say you were doing it?
I'm sorry. What was the
Do you remember?
So there's multiple reasons why I'm doing it.
Because I love it because you probably said this in passing, but it resonated with me. It made an impact on me because you said, I'm changing my family's destiny.
Yes,
Yeah?
the trajectory.
Yeah, the trajectory of
my family. Yeah, that is definitely, my generation, listen, my generations to come, they're not, oh, no. We're not going through all of that, and I'm going to make sure because I'm not just
through all of what?
All of the trauma, all of the struggle, all of the victim mindset, right? Especially the mentality of struggle or the mentality of less than. I can't afford that. It's way too expensive, and it wastes a lot of time, and it's also against what God said. There's so many reasons why that victim mindset is not good. It's not for us. So the trajectory of my generations is definitely going to change, and it starts here. It starts in our mind.
That's so good. And so, I love it because, and there's nothing wrong with this, but you weren't working to, get a new couch or get a new sound system or get a new car. All those things are great, and that's good to work for those things.
Right.
But to actually think beyond that and say, I'm actually working to change the trajectory of my family.
Yes.
So that provide opportunity for my daughter and my grandchildren to come. I love that mindset, and that's a mindset that it's thinking big, it's thinking beyond you and your immediate needs.
Yes.
It's not about make a little bit of money, then go spend it on something.
Right.
It's make a little money, invest it, save it, grow it, duplicate, teach others how to do the same.
Yes.
That's how you really grow and succeed. We live in a very
a microwave
fast,
society.
Microwave, immediate gratification culture where we make a little money and spend it. And we live in this constant state of poverty and want and victim mentality, where when you think beyond your immediate need and you say, you know what, I'm willing to do without for a few years so that I can actually build something that lasts.
Right.
I love that it's needed. So listen, get this. So everything we just talked about, that is a perspective we have. And when we talk about social empathy
Yes.
and social awareness,
Yes.
we're coming to our culture with this preconceived idea, with this worldview
Right.
about the way things should be, about the way that people should work,
Right.
and the way that other people should view the world.
Right.
Now, if you don't have that perspective
Mhm.
and you believe that people should benefit from other successes,
Mhm.
have a more of a socialist mindset on things,
Mhm.
then what does equity mean to you? And how are you going to teach that to the children?
Well, because I did overcome victim thinking, I was bought into this, oh, I'm a female. Not just I'm a female, oh, I'm a black female. Oh, no, I'm a black female that was raised by one parent. No, I'm a black female that was raised by one parent in poverty. Even though I excelled like crazy in school, I still do to this day. But that was my mindset. So I was always defeated before I even tried. And so I needed, this mindset was like my crutch. And so I needed handouts. I didn't think about how can I survive without Section 8? Like I didn't think that was possible for me until I started going to therapy.
Right, exactly. And so, here's a concern about, and we've only dealt with one aspect of SEL.
Yeah.
Social awareness, and we haven't even dug too deep in it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Here's the thing you have to remember too, guys, is that these political issues, most of the time people make a judgment based on bullet points.
Oh yeah.
And you say, "Oh, sounds good to me." But have you dug into and gotten into the conversation? That's what we're wanting to do through this podcast, is dig deep, really explore the issues and say, okay, what is the right call here for our state and for our public schools?
Right.
And why do conservatives believe this? Why is there a conservative senator pushing legislation to ban SEL in schools compared to teachers who are saying we need it? How are we going to teach children without this? Well, if you understand both perspectives, you can probably come to a place of saying, okay, there is a need.
Yes.
There's trauma in our schools. Kids can't learn math when they're dealing with all this trauma.
Right.
So we understand where you're coming from. What is the right solution? Is it to empower teachers to talk about self-awareness and social consciousness and these kinds of things? Or is there a better way? I lean in the camp of saying there's a better way. I have a lot of red flags about SEL implemented in the classroom because you're taking away from time and attention given towards teaching the essentials.
Right.
That's the reason that we send our kids to public schools, is to teach them math, science, history, English, the fundamentals. And the more time you spend on teaching social consciousness, you're not teaching them these fundamentals.
Right.
But that's one concern. The other concern is, what do you mean by social awareness?
Right.
And so if you don't believe that people can rise from the ashes, that in America there's opportunity, that even if you're born into poverty and everything is against you, you can still succeed, just like you've proven in your life.
Oh my.
But if you don't believe that, and you believe that everyone is a victim, and that unless the government intervenes and helps them, and unless we redistribute wealth, unless that happens, then there's no hope for the people down at the bottom.
Right.
If that's your worldview and what you believe, then what you're going to be teaching my child when I send them to your school is that they're helpless and they're a victim, and they need help from above. And not talking about God, they need help from other people. You need other people's money, or you need the government to give you handouts. And unless you have that, then there's no hope for you. And so that becomes instilled in my child's psyche, and they develop this victim mindset. Huge problem for me. Right.
And not just that, but they'll always need someone to soothe them.
That's good. What do you mean by that?
Because this whole their trauma, right? It's always something, and they can't focus and they can't nothing because they're in trauma, and so these teachers have to find ways to help them. And what happens when they're no longer in that teacher's classroom? Yeah. What happens when they're an adult, right? And it's saying that social emotional learning is saying that it's helping them to be sociable, but when they become an adult, they've learned all these social skills, but they don't have any practical skills to survive in this world. And so the trauma is just going to repeat, because when they get out in the world and they can't read or write, they're going to struggle.
Right. Well,
it's a lot. It's a vicious cycle.
I think you're just talking about toxic masculinity. I think you're
right, because the Caucasian American man is the pinnacle of all of our problems.
Right. Well,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the reason. He's the reason I'm
Um,
not a victim anymore.
mm,
Yeah. Or I was a
well,
victim in the first place. I don't.
man, you stand as a beacon and as an example to our culture. I admire what you are doing and have done.
Oh, thank you.
Where you haven't waited on other people to do something for you.
Yeah.
You've stepped out and said, "I'm going to school."
Yeah.
You're taking classes right now.
I am.
You're taking classes while you're raising a daughter. She's in college, but
She
you're
is.
still mama.
Yes.
And you're working a full-time job. You'll work second jobs if you have to.
Yes.
And you're still taking classes.
I am.
I mean, that's a lot of sacrifice.
Yes.
But you're not waiting on someone else. You're saying it's up to me.
And it helped me. It developed me. All of these social, emotional, right? So going through all of this and actually putting in the work developed me. I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
I don't need someone to come and soothe me.
Yeah.
I can deal with these traumas or these experiences. I went through Hurricane Harvey. I didn't have a breakdown. I'm here. I'm okay. I dug even deeper, right?
Yeah, that's so good. Look at this. This is something I found on social consciousness.
Okay.
Social awareness. This is just one tenet of SEL, social emotional learning. And so social consciousness is linked to the collective self-awareness. Think about that, collective self-awareness. We're not talking about an individual with an individual mind and thinking, but we're talking about a collective consciousness, or at least they are when we're talking about SEL. And so collective self-awareness and experience of collectively shared social identity. Now, when it comes to social identity, now you talk about patriotism and American ideas. Now that's a form of social identity.
Yes.
Right? So we're connected to the larger, to the whole.
Right.
But a key part of the American spirit is individualism.
Yes.
That yes, we are together in one country with commonly shared freedoms, but we're individuals.
Right.
And our destiny really depends on what we decide to do with that freedom as an individual.
Right.
So when you talk about social identity, again, there can be a certain form of social identity that's good, but I believe that you have to maintain individuality while also talking about the collective.
Right.
Never lose your individuality when you're talking about the collective whole and what you're a part of.
Right.
So I am an Oklahoman.
Yes.
So are you.
Yes.
We're Oklahomans. We're also both Americans.
Yes.
And so we have something in common there. But you're also part of a culture I'm not a part of.
Yes.
The woman culture.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing.
The black culture.
Yeah.
Now, I go to a mostly black church and involved. I have lots of black friends and everything, but, you're involved in a different way.
Yes.
Right? And so there's a different way we're connected to different parts of our culture and society. It says the we feeling or the sense of us may be experienced in members of various cultures and social groups. By the experience of collectively shared social identity, individuals may experience social unity. Social consciousness may also stimulate working towards a common goal. According to Karl Marx, what?
Wow. The common goal of, I don't know.
Okay, listen, according to Karl Marx, human beings enter into certain productive or economic relations, and these relations lead to a form of social consciousness. Marx said, in the social production of their life, men enter into definite relations that are indispensable and independent of their will. These relations of production correspond to a definite stage of development of the material forces of production. Now, this can get deep pretty quickly.
Right.
Lots of things to look at here.
That said a lot right there, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's the idea that you're working for the collective whole.
Right.
Okay.
And that's a segue into, okay, well, if Johnny wants to be a kitten today, then everybody has to accept it. And we all have to think of Johnny as a part of us. And so we can all be kittens and we can all use the litter boxes in the corner at the school today if that's what we want to do. And if you as a parent don't agree with that,
Yeah.
But you approved SEL.
Well, and here's the thing too is I'm not, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not thinking about how I can go to work to make your life better.
Right.
I'm not, now I'm going there thinking about how I can make my life better and my family's life better. Now I also want to pay my taxes.
Right.
Because guess what? I want to drive on good roads.
Me too.
I want certain things. There's a certain degree of selfishness that comes along with capitalism, and this is where people tend to have a problem with capitalism, is because it's all about you. Yeah, you know what? That motivates people. You were talking about advancing your family legacy.
Right.
When you go to work, you're not thinking about how you might make more money so you can pay my bills.
Would definitely not.
You're thinking about your bills,
right?
Your food, your children, your grandchildren, your legacy. Right. And so, guess what? That's good.
Right. Well,
now, at the same time, once I advance and have money, now I've taken care of all of my needs and my family's needs.
Right.
I have two choices then. If I get to a place I have a surplus, I can again reinvest in myself and reinvest in myself and reinvest in myself. Not saying that's necessarily bad.
Right.
Jesus does give perspective on that and says, you fool. Because the farmer says, I've got a surplus. What am I going to do with it? Oh, I know what. I'll build bigger barns. And Jesus said, you fool, tonight your soul is required of you. So what are you going to do with those barns now that you're dead?
Right.
And so, once we get a surplus and we've met our needs, then he says, look outward, look beyond yourself.
Yes, amen.
And guess what? That is the love of God in you that drives you to do that. If you're completely selfish and self-consumed, all you're going to be thinking about is bigger barns. But when you look at your life in light of eternity, then all of a sudden there's an understanding. I'm only here for a moment. Mm-hmm. I want to invest in something that lasts. The best investment is other people. How can I help people? See, this is once you're influenced and shaped internally by the love of God, this becomes the natural response. So again, money's not bad. It's the love of money. It's I need more and I'm going to keep it all for me. But when money is a tool, you can meet your needs and the needs of your family, even have surplus, but you're also thinking about other people and you have this desire to give and help.
Well, and also back to the selfish part, how it can be. So the social emotional part of it all is saying, well, I want to be a kitten. And even though that is not physically what I am, it's not reality. I'm going to force everybody else to accept me being a kitten. And you need to it be in agreement with my distorted reality because that's what, I want.
Right.
So
well, there's a reality that's told, this is what you must believe.
Right.
This is who you are.
Right.
This is what everybody else is. So you need to adapt and accommodate and fit in.
Yeah, and that's there's so many there are so many dangers here. And how you mentioned Karl Marx. It says how educators approach SEL. I think this is it's just eye-opening. It says, while SEL isn't a designated subject like history or math, I'm going to repeat it. While SEL isn't a designated subject like history or math, it can be woven into the fabric of a school's curriculum.
There you go.
That sounds like critical theory to me.
Well, that's a method I think critical theory is using, to weave that in. So you have a worldview, and you look at how you can weave that into math word problems. We're seeing that with even the transgender movement, the homosexual accepted, idea is, okay, so in a word problem, you have, okay, Johnny has two dads, and his two dads both own 6 pairs of shoes. And they go out and buy 4 more pairs of shoes. How many shoes do they now have?
Right. And you're like, well, why do we even need to say anything about his 2 dads? We were just talking about shoes.
Just slip that in there.
Right.
Slip that in there. But no. We're just adding up shoes.
Really?
But you threw that in there.
You did.
That was intentional.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing this become more widespread. And we're wanting to, again, you have a worldview, an ideology, and you are shaping children to accept this as normal. Why? social awareness, social acceptance. So we can all get along, have unity. And so it's all in the name of love and unity.
Right.
But in order to have the unity that they want, you have to accept other people's ideologies, even though they may conflict with yours.
Right. And this somehow is going to help the child that's traumatized learn math better. I'm trying to figure that part out.
Exactly.
I'm still trying to, because this is the argument for SEL. I'm still
Exactly.
trying to connect the dots there.
Think about if you were just to teach math.
Yeah.
They know how to add, they know how to subtract, they know how algebra, advanced algebra, geometry, trigonometry, they know all these things as they go through their grade levels, and they leave being very skilled in math.
Right.
But who's going to teach them how to get along with everyone? Well,
people.
Their parents.
Yeah. Interacting with
but what if their parents don't do that? Well, hopefully they're going to learn from looking around them.
Yeah.
They'll find a good mentor through their peers, through just the dynamics of our society.
Yes, just interaction, period.
They become a jerk, and they don't work well with people, and then all of a sudden they're not closing deals, they're not getting opportunities, not getting a job.
Right.
And hopefully they learn from that of saying, oh, I need to adjust myself because it's not working out for me.
That's okay. So this is the whole point that I was discovering. They're teaching babies this stuff. These are babies these are complex ideas that their little brain is not fully comprehending. Right. And so first we need to teach them how to read. Yeah. As they get older, they will develop socially and mentally and emotionally. It's
they're
natural.
They're going to model what's around them. Here's what you can do. If you're a teacher and you want them to learn how to love and accept other people, then what you do as a teacher is you love and accept everyone around you.
Exactly.
And you build a relationship with your students.
Right.
Of one, they admire you. They look at how you teach with excellence.
Right.
They look at how you, even a kid that makes a bad grade, you're going to them, it's okay, you can do this.
Right.
Different things that you can do in your classroom to encourage acceptance and model this positive behavior. That's as far as it should go.
Right.
Not teaching them, even though I'm a born-again believer, firmly believe in Christ and in the Bible, I'm not even saying the teacher should say, now kids, did you see how I was loving and accepting of that? Well, that's what the Bible teaches. Jesus did, and she does not need to go into an in-depth study about what she believes and her theology and why she's so kind and nice. Just be kind and nice.
Right.
Just be kind and nice. And then if they ask you, you can say, well, I am a Christian. I believe in the Bible. This is what the Bible teaches. But, we're in a place in our culture where people are wanting to disconnect, to separate from religion in general. Okay? And while I would love for the Bible to be in every school, while I would love for teachers to be able to pray with their students, we're not in that world anymore.
Right.
And so, we need to allow teachers to be nice and kind, but not allow them to teach their ideologies and worldviews.
Correct.
Especially when we're in a place where I believe it's more and more godless.
Right.
And more separated from my worldview. I don't want my kids being taught by you what you believe regarding equity if God has no place in your life, if the Bible has no place in your life, then I do not want you teaching my children what you believe is good and true. Because I believe you are missing it.
Right.
And so this is very complicated, very involved, but these are the reasons why conservatives are cautious in this area, and they do not want SEL introduced into school because ultimately you're shaping children in their ideologies and the worldview based on something that is not rooted in Scripture.
Or just education itself.
Right. It really is not conducive to just educating children.
Right.
You're departing from your primary focus is teaching them. And so with the time you spend shaping their social awareness, you're not teaching them math. You're not teaching them literature. So, this is where we're at as a culture. This is a huge question. It's a concern for people on both sides of the aisle.
Correct.
I'm obviously a conservative Christian. I'm obviously hesitant about allowing SEL into school.
Yes.
Because you look it up. It's connected to Marxism.
It is.
It is a
critical theory is all in it.
Right. It's a method that that Karl Marx saw as a means of shaping a culture
Yes.
is via the schools.
It's very social,
Right.
economic, right, social, emotional. It's a very social thing. And
To losing your individual identity,
right.
embracing the whole, going with the flow.
Right.
That is so anti-American.
Because this individual identity will help you, losing this individual identity will help you deal with your own individual traumas that you've experienced as an individual. So you just need to lose your individual identity.
Right.
Right. You're still going to have trauma issues.
Yeah.
That's not going to help address the trauma.
Exactly.
It's just not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I love, we're going up on 50 minutes here.
Oh,
we
gosh.
try to keep these at 30 minutes, but, this conversation is deep.
Yes.
And it's relevant to what's happening in our state. Like I said, there's legislation coming through. I don't have that bill number. We'll get that to you.
It is SB 1442.
She's on top of it. Say it again.
Senate Bill 1442.
Senate Bill 1442. Look it up. Who's the author on this?
I believe it is Jett.
Jett, I believe it is too.
It
Senator
is
Jett.
Yes.
Shane Jett. He is advancing this. There's a lot of pushback, especially within the public schools or government schools, and saying we need SEL because we have to help children. We agree we need to help children, but I don't believe that the public school is the setting to do that.
No.
And how we help children is another issue entirely.
Right.
Because if it involves shaping their worldview and their ideologies
right.
to match something that is contrary to the parents' ideologies,
right.
then we have a huge problem. So we'll continue this conversation. We have to jump off and close this out today. But we are going to, that's one of the five.
That's just
we talked
one
about
of the
social
five.
awareness, but the others are self-awareness,
mm-hmm.
self-management.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, we could go a whole hour on each one of those.
We did.
Relationship skills.
Right.
Responsible decision-making.
Right.
Every single one of those has a worldview attached to it, has a deep ideology attached to it.
Right.
So you cannot teach any of these without also teaching about one's identity,
right.
their place in the world,
right.
their relationship to God, their relationship to each other.
The mindset of not being a victim touches on all five of these.
All of them. So we're going to have another conversation about these. We're going to wrap it up today. I hope you enjoyed it. Catch us next time on the Jake for the State podcast.
Bye, Oklahoma.
See ya.
This was